2 days before the end of 2022, I decided I needed a brand new bullet journal. I started bullet journaling, I think like 3 years ago, because I just felt overwhelmed by all the tasks I had to remember. And I also wanted to start tracking things I ate and habits. And I think I started adding creative elements to my second bullet journal. At first, I was having a lot of fun with it, but as soon as I started sharing my spreads and also comparing myself to other spreads I was seeing, my perfectionism got the best of me. I was paralyzed in starting new spreads. I wanted everything to look perfect, and honestly, I was just not having fun anymore. Perfectionism has not only been stopping me from growing as an artist, but also in a personal way. I get so scared of failing at something or disappointing people that I have a really hard time putting myself out there. I feel ashamed of a lot of the art and projects that I work on, and I rarely share anything. Even this voiceover was really hard for me to do because I feel so self conscious about my accent, and I feel like a fool right now. So, anyways, I just made this little pocket to add the grid spacing guide that came with my old journal, and now I'm gonna be working on my cover page for 2023. I want this new journal to help me fight my perfectionism instead of enabling it. I didn't want to follow a theme. I didn't really want to choose any specific colors. I just wanted to do whatever felt right at that moment. I really like this wrapping paper that I found. And it's like reversible, and I found it so funny that it's a leopard print behind it. When I was looking back at my old journal, I realized that my favorite part was my memory spread, which I would just write every day some things that were going on, maybe doodle or try some new fonts. And I found myself looking back at those spreads a lot because they just made me happy and there was no pressure behind anything I was putting in there. I just realized that I wanted my whole bullet journal to feel like those memory spreads. So here I'm just adding some ink to my paper just to add some contrast with the image behind it. It's probably not the best way to do this, but it actually worked out really nicely. I feel like this voiceover is all over the place, but my point is that I'm just so tired of questioning myself and comparing myself. It got so bad that I was at a point where I just wanted to quit being an artist, which I don't even know if that's possible. But I had attached so much of who I was to being an artist that it just, I just felt this awful dread every time I would make art because I felt like a fraud. I felt like I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't making art that represented who I was. But I think I forgot that being an artist is just making art. There's nothing else to it. I feel like I have a hard time expressing myself vocally, as you probably can tell. So art has just always been something that I've used to express myself. But as soon as I started calling myself an artist, I have been putting so much pressure onto myself. It's honestly gotten to a point where I don't share anything I draw or paint anymore because I feel ashamed that I'm not good enough yet, that I dare to call myself an artist. But it's kind of like a vicious cycle because not posting anything also feels like you're a fraud and that you're calling yourself an artist, but I have nothing to show for it. I want this new journal to feel like a safe space where I can draw and doodle and write anything that I want. And I want these spreads to inspire me when I look back at them and remind me that making art is fun and that I shouldn't be scared to grab some pencils and draw. I wrote all my goals on a loose piece of paper and stuck them in to this cover page, and I really like how it turned out. Oh, but I did end up removing this because the paper color was different and it was annoying me. I ended up just putting the old title that I had made, but I ended up changing it anyways. I put a white border around the letters and stamped 2023 and stuck it in there. Here I'm just adding some details with this white acrylic paint. And yeah, that's my cover page for 2023. I've been using coloring pencils as decoration, and I even use them to create my spreads. I already created my January spread. It's not going to be in this video, but I'm going to post it soon. And I basically created all my spreads with coloring pencils. So here I'm making sort of a future log, but I don't really use it for events. I mostly use it to plan out my monthly goals. I really like the way it turns out, and it kind of allows me to just go freehand and not worry too much, because you can kind of erase coloring pencils if you make a mistake. I just feel like it allows me to make mistakes without being too worried about it. I think I'm gonna keep using coloring pencils in my spreads because honestly it made the whole process so much more fun and relaxing. I've been practicing my cursive writing in these spreads too, and I've been really enjoying it. I've always written all caps or have used my stamps for titles, and it was getting a bit exhausting to use the stamps all the time. I just added this border around everything to tie everything together. And I'm really happy with how this spread turned out. It's simple. I didn't even write out all the calendars because there was no point. I added all the monthly numbers with a white gel pen and that's it. I wanted to try having a period tracker in this bullet journal. I've never used one before, but I've seen this style a lot and I think it looks nice, so hopefully it'll help me track things better. Oh, I needed a little break from making dots. This title I end up changing. I don't hate it, but it just didn't feel right. I'm using my pencil crayon to create this background. I just didn't like how big the text was for tracker. It felt unbalanced. I also decided I wanted to add a bit of collage elements to the spread, so I end up covering it with some brown paper and redoing a title. Here I'm just finishing up those dots, which wasn't that long to do, surprisingly. Today is my 33rd birthday. It feels like I've wasted so many years questioning myself and being afraid of making art. I want to move forward and make up for lost time and make more art than I've ever made before. I want this new journal to help me fight my perfectionism instead of enabling it. I'm just so tired of being afraid of putting myself out there, being ashamed of every little mistake I make. I'm so tired of putting this pressure on me to be perfect when perfection doesn't even exist. Here I'm just making a spread for my ideal morning and night routine. I just wanted a place to look at when I was having a rough start to my day and maybe need, oh, morning. Just going back and adding a bit of space to add my G. Oh, and another thing I love about coloring pencils is there's no dry time. So as soon as you finish drawing your background, you can start writing on it with the gel pen, which is amazing. So if you haven't been convinced yet to try it, try it. Try coloring pencils to make your spreads. When I thought of quitting art, I felt overwhelmed with sadness. Would my life be easier without the constant doubts, comparisons, and uncertainty of where this dream was going? Maybe. But when both choices were laid out in front of me, the choice was easy. All I ever wanted to be was an artist, but I've been sabotaging myself for years with perfectionism and comparison. This year, I'm done being ashamed of my dreams. I want to put myself out there, flaws, failures, and all. I will be an artist because there's simply no other alternative for me.